Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're all doing fine, and today I wanted to talk about why game developers and especially Call of Duty releases unfinished games and delay patches on purpose. But before we dive into today's video, we're on our road to 2000 subscribers, so if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and drop a comment down below. Alright, so now let us talk about Call of Duty, especially Black Ops 6, and a game that despite launching just over 2 months ago already feels kind of dead, and the player base has dropped off faster than Activision can roll out broken Warzone integrations, and honestly, it's starting to feel like a recurring theme with this franchise. And I gotta admit, I haven't been playing every title religiously over the past few years, right? My last experience was with Modern Warfare 2019 during a free weekend while I was studying in the UK. And I played for about 3 hours with a friend and got banned for no reason mid-game, so I called it quits, right? And I didn't exactly stick around to see how that one evolved. But Black Ops 6, since it was kind of free, I gave it a shot, and here we are. And I know that for most of you guys, this isn't something new, right? You've been through it all before. The launch disasters, the endless bugs, and gameplay so rough, it's somehow a miracle anyone sticks around past day one. But Activision has a playbook, right? They patch a few bugs here, announce some shiny new Warzone integration there, and they hope it keeps players hooked, and it does, which is a big issue. And new players who don't know any better, they maybe think this is fine, right? They haven't seen the golden days. They didn't drop nukes back in the era of Modern Warfare 2 on dedicated servers with no pay-to-win nonsense. And for them, this chaotic mess might actually feel exciting. You know, I'm not judging them, but for those of us who've been around for a while, it is just sad. You know, watching the franchise spiral like this year after year is like seeing an old friend completely lose their way. But what's worse is that it's starting to feel intentional. Games launch in borderline unplayable states, seemingly held together by duct tape and corporate optimism, right? Only to be fixed, so to say, later once the damage is done. And it's not about creating a polished experience anymore. It's about getting something out there, breaking player counts for a brief moment, and hoping enough people stick around to justify the next seasonal battle pass. And here we are again, riding that same broken train year after year. Some of us keep hoping it'll turn around, but then there's players like me, and we're just left wondering what happened to the game we used to love. And I stopped playing over a decade ago. For anyone saying, why are you still playing the game? I'm not playing the game. I never bought it. It was free on Game Pass. Last Call of Duty I bought was Black Ops 2. Franchise has turned to garbage when Ghosts released. And yeah, the gameplay that you see was me gathering data from weeks ago when I made the video about skill-based matchmaking being rigged, because we don't have skill-based matchmaking. It is just engagement optimized matchmaking, right? So I just reuse these clips, but I never played this game like I've played Call of Duty back in the days. And if we're being really honest here, Activision's real talent isn't game development anymore. It's ignoring the community, and we've seen it time and time again, right? We have skill-based damage rumors, hackers, server issues, and no meaningful updates at all. And yet radio silence from the developers, and the anti-cheat, don't even get me started on that one, right? It's been a joke for years. They claim they work on improvements, but at this point it feels more like a convenient excuse to keep players dangling until the next fix rolls out, right? I think you remember they said like a couple weeks ago, yeah, we will fix the anti-cheat with Season 2. Why fix it with Season 2? Why not trying to fix the issue right now? Because players are leaving because the game is full of cheaters. And you know what's really wild? The entire infrastructure is cloud-based, meaning real-time manipulation is always a possibility. And call me skeptical, but I've made videos questioning whether this so-called anti-cheat even functions as advertised. And they promise improvements, but somehow it never happens fast enough. And it is probably by design. It's all part of keeping players warm, stringing us along with promises of better days while delivering the same tired experience. The player base is practically non-existent at this point. Even die-hard Call of Duty YouTubers and streamers, the ones who would defend the franchise through thick and thin, are now openly criticizing it, right? When even Activision's most loyal followers have had enough, then you know something's gone wrong. But you know what? Here comes Season 2, right on cue. New content to keep players hooked, except, let's be real, the game offers little in the way of actual content beyond microtransactions. We got bundles, skins, more ways to spend money, and that's the real content pipeline. And yet, even with the player count dwindling, they know there are still people eagerly waiting to buy those skins and cosmetics. And let's not forget, most of this content isn't even new, right? It's been planned, produced, and sitting on a shelf waiting for its release window. And leaks have already exposed files for maps and features that have been ready to go for months. And of course, rumors thrill about bringing back the original Verdansk map, because nostalgia is the one card they can always play to lure back OG players. And I get it, Verdansk was fun and I played it back in the day coming from Fortnite and it felt fresh at the time. A perfect blend of Call of Duty and Battle Royale chaos, but the experience soured quickly with server failures and rampant cheating. So now, years later, it's a bit hard to get excited about the same old map dressed up as new content. And it's been like this for years now. Still, there's plenty of players who come back for it, and content creators will pump out videos, streams will blow up, and maybe a few more bundles will sell. And that's fine, you know, everyone's entitled to enjoy what they want. But let's not ignore the pattern here. They launch broken, drip feed content, and then they bring back nostalgia when things get really bad. And it's a tactic as old as time, or at least as old as recent Call of Duty history. And like clockwork, here we are again. And if you're still watching, I've got a question for you, because I'm really curious about your experience with Call of Duty. What was the first Call of Duty you've ever played? How long have you been part of the franchise, and what keeps you coming back for more? Or maybe if you've stopped playing, what made you call it quits? And of course, what's your all-time favorite Call of Duty and why? So please let me know in the comments below, because I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think. But now let us talk about production costs, right, for Call of Duty, because they have skyrocketed over the years, but the sales numbers not so much. And Activision even had to disclose some of the financials due to legal issues, revealing that despite massive investments in game development and aggressive marketing campaigns, recent entries haven't performed as well as expected. And yet, despite everything, millions of players still log in. And sure, people have different experiences with the game, right? But I can only speak from my own perspective, and I've never grinded for unlocks or cared about skins in Black Ops 6. I approached the game analytically, right? I was testing mechanics, gathering data, but playing it seriously, that is impossible. Like, the spawns are so broken, especially on maps like Nuketown. You spawn, you die, enemies don't drop fast enough, and the game is riddled with hackers. You got wall hacks, aimbots, bots running wild, and it's mind-blowing how Activision keeps churning out the same tired formula year after year, you know, sometimes sprinkling in a remake or two to keep players on the hook, and they promise improvements but remain silent on core issues. And when they do speak up on social media, they often get hit with community fact checks, right? It's so embarrassing on Twitter. I think they've got community noted 3 times by now. And I think the last time they got noted, I think yesterday, they kind of reversed it because apparently what the community said was wrong. So I don't know if they're censoring the people on Twitter now for calling out the truth. Some might say content creators like myself are just here to complain, but I started making videos to help others, right? I even shared methods for improving the gameplay experience by blocking certain connections, which many confirm made a difference. And this is why I made the video back then in the first place. And that video gained traction because it touched on the deeper issue: Call of Duty's broken servers, and in its current state, it is still fundamentally broken and rigged. For me, this isn't just about one bad game, right? I've been playing Call of Duty since I was 7 or 8 years old, and Modern Warfare 2 defined my childhood. I probably spent over 15,000 hours on it alone, right? I've played nearly every game up to Black Ops 2 and many others in between, but the current state of Call of Duty, it is rigged. The patterns are deliberate. Every year, the same mistakes, and the same empty promises. And since over a decade, I've shifted my focus to other games, right? I'm playing indie games, single player games, but I'm still passionate about discussing Call of Duty and sharing my thoughts and contributing to the conversation. Because for me, this isn't just about playing a game, it's about calling out what's wrong and connecting with others who care about gaming as much as I do. And that's worth talking about if you ask me. Also, let me touch briefly on the topic of patents related to the Call of Duty franchise. And while this isn't a deep dive, certain patents point toward the existence of modifiable gameplay parameters based on skill level. And if you're curious, you can just research this yourself online. You can watch other videos, but here's the key point, right? Patents discuss concepts that the community came up with, right? Like skill-based damage, and they categorize players into brackets: high skill, medium skill, and low skill players. And depending on how the engagement optimized matchmaking system is working, you might find yourself placed in different lobbies. And data collected by Activision, which they obviously don't fully disclose, seems to contribute to a skill rating that determines matchmaking. And one patent outlines variables that are adjusted based on player skill. For example, accuracy required to hit a target, the likelihood of being targeted by an enemy, the difficulty of in-game encounters, and the number of challenging enemies per encounter. Which means high-skill players might need pinpoint accuracy and face tougher challenges, while low-skill players could experience more easy mode, so to say. Another patent that I discussed, and even Blame Truth covered it in his last video, is for continuing simulation when network resources go offline, which implies gameplay simulations with AI bots distributed across user devices. And the abstract even mentions using a player's device to help simulate these NPCs when there's enough processing capacity available. And imagine that your console or PC might be running bots in your lobby without you even realizing it. Then we got another patent that discusses transparently styling NPCs. I also talked about this, and this is there to disguise them as real players. So no more bot 1 usernames or level 1 profiles with generic icons. These bots are masked to blend in, and sometimes using player profile data for their disguise. And while bugs like visible level 1 bots still exist, the technology behind these patents aims to smooth over that experience. And what most people don't understand is these patents are not random ideas. They cost thousands of dollars to develop and register, and they're crafted by highly skilled professionals for a reason. They're designed to keep players engaged, spending more money, and improving the game's overall experience, at least from the perspective of the developers. And it's not conspiracy talk, it's business, because bots have been around for years and they're evolving over time. And in Black Ops 6, well, the bots there seem poorly implemented, but the existence of these patents shows there's a clear intention behind their use. And all of this ultimately ties back to keeping players hooked, no matter the method. And I also think it was in Blame Truth last video where he showed that a guy was playing solos, and all of a sudden, randomly, I think 3 or 4 people, bots, just spawned above him, parachuting to I don't know where, in a single player mode in Warzone, which doesn't make any sense. And now to circle back to the question why game developers release unfinished games and delay patches and content on purpose. And most people gotta understand that publishers don't care if your game crashes at every turn as long as the investors see green, right? Tight deadlines and skyrocketing budgets force developers to release what's essentially a beta test disguised as a full release. And if you've pre-ordered, well, that's just free money for a product they haven't even finished yet. And we always got the fear of missing out, the hype manipulation, and by releasing games with half the promised features and saying coming soon, developers keep players hooked, and each patch or content drop becomes an event, a reason to reinstall and grind some more. And if you've missed it, well, better luck next time. The psychology here is simple. People love to chase what they can have, even if it's just a digital head for their character. And believe it or not, but bugs build community, and some developers seem to believe that nothing builds player relationship faster than collectively suffering through broken mechanics and game-breaking glitches? And why fix it right away when the players can bond over shared pain and make memes about it, right? Like, you gotta imagine there's people probably sitting in Activision watching these videos and glitches and are like, I don't care. Because imagine, why should they care? They get paid, they've done their job, and if it's not working, then it's not working. So be it. And the typical we're listening to feedback, is actually like we'll do it later. And delaying content gives developers an excuse to act like heroes when they finally respond to community feedback, right? By patching things that should have been working on day one. And it's all about optics. And you're not angry customers, you're valued participants in their development process, so to say, right? And what most people don't know, games exploit the same dopamine loops as social media. You have small rewards spaced out over time. Drip feeding content keeps you coming back, hoping the next patch will fix everything or add something groundbreaking. But we all know it probably won't. But by then, you're too invested to quit the game. Because you might have already spent money on the game. You have grinded dark matter. I don't know what else you can grind in this game, max prestige and all that stuff. And you would feel like it's a waste of time, or generally a waste, to quit this game altogether now. So you just sit there and try to force yourself to play this game, even if you do not really enjoy it. So you're just waiting there for them to actually fix the game, so to say. And this is what it's all about, right? It's all about keeping you hooked, spending and hoping for the game to finally reach its potential. And meanwhile, the developers are already working on the next unfinished masterpiece. So welcome to gaming in the modern era, and where patches are eternal and hype is the currency. All right, now before I wrap things up, let's talk about the interesting world of gaming content creators. And now I'm not here to call anyone out or point fingers, because everyone's free to create whatever content they want. I don't really follow some of these content creators for various reasons, but I do check in occasionally just to see how they're discussing the current state of the game. And it's fascinating, to say the least, because there are genuine problems in the community, right? Big ones that you simply can't deny. And anyone who does, well, let's just say they might need a reality check. But what's also worth noting is that there are content creators out there who work directly with Activision. And imagine getting paid to play and conveniently speak positively about the game. It's a wild idea, right? And then you have the other side, the ones who rant endlessly and have zero ties to Activision. And honestly, I get it, right? The contrast between these groups is massive, and some creators address issues with analytical breakdowns, others lean into rage-filled rants. Meanwhile, there's that subset of influencers who downplay every single problem the community raises, as if by sheer willpower they can rewrite reality somehow. And you know where it gets tricky? Some of these creators, and we can call them enthusiasts, they dismiss community concerns because things just feel fine for them, right? No real evidence, just vibes. And of course, they're often the ones with larger audiences, so their opinions somehow carry more weight. It's all very scientific, obviously. And on the flip side, we've got different creators, like Nero Cinema, and I think I follow this guy since back in the days from OG Modern Warfare 3 and class setups, and Nero speaks his mind. He criticizes when needed and even turned down Activision when they wanted him to sign a contract, so respect to that. Then there's Blame Truth, who's been brutally honest for years. I also follow this dude since over a decade, and he's also calling out what's wrong without sugarcoating it, right? And these content creators aren't perfect, but they ask questions and they engage the community and they keep it real. And just compare that to others who rarely post these days, despite once being daily uploaders, which makes you wonder, if the game were in a great state, wouldn't they be pumping out content like before? So why the silence now, Just a thought. But at the end of the day, authenticity matters, and while everyone's entitled to their own opinions, the community deserves transparency and not just marketing fluff. And that's it for today, my guys. And if you ask me, I think it is crazy to think how much goes into making sure that players stay engaged, whether it's through skill-based, engagement-optimized matchmaking, right? Or even simulating bots in the lobby. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think these patterns make sense to you? Are you seeing these effects in your own gameplay? So please, as always, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.